Today we are going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about the Taoist perspective on sex and how sex can be used for your health. And within this context we also talk about chimerism. And chimerism is an aspect of biology Today we are going to talk about chimerism and sex. In Taoism, sexuality has always been a major part, and in the West we have at this moment a fashion where a lot of people are involved in Tantra and Tantra related things. In the article accompanying the video there is a more extensive discussion of the topic of Tantra, and then especially from the Indian, the Western and the Chinese perspective. And the Chinese perspective includes the Korean and the Japanese. Because these are traditions that are clients, you can say, of the original Chinese culture. Although Koreans and Chinese have a discussion about that to understand who is client of whom. For instance, the Koreans say that the first Korean kingdom is the source for the Shang dynasty in the Chinese. True or not true, we discuss that another time. Sexuality for Taoists is a very important part. Not that that means that they're wanting to have sex all the time. My shirt is not very well dressed, so how can you believe somebody who is dressed sloppy? How did people ever believe in Zhang Fen? Because Zhang Fen was always sloppy. Amazed that this guy became a god. Alright, very good. So, where was I? So in Taoism, sexuality was always very important. Sexuality was called the art of the bedchamber. Not so much the art of the bedchamber as well as the art inside the bedchamber. Both Taoism and Confucianism both emphasize that life should be an aesthetic expression of itself. And it means that your personal development has to emphasize the form in which you live and the way how you express yourself, and that you become an artful existence, a living piece of art, so to say. And a living piece of art means that you have to learn to do all the things in your life on purpose and not by accident. Like in the West, we have as a trend since the invention of the subconscious that you can blame our subconscious for behaviors that we have. So they give us an excuse to do things that are, well, maybe not as wanted by society or your fellow beings or your family members as you would like. So, as a result, we can say that for Chinese culture, purposeful behavior means adult behavior. Yeah, and behavior which is driven by urges and by impulses is well, immature, and if it is damaging, then it is demonic. On the basis of this, we can come to a very simple conclusion about health. Health is primarily driven by behavior. And secondary, we can see that there are damaging influences on our physical health, and these can be treated, for instance, with acupuncture, massage, herbs, and other means. In the oldest bedroom manuals from both Confucian and in Taoist background, they do not really talk about esoteric relationships with sexuality. Like in Western Tantra traditions, there's a very strong feeling which in modern parlor, modern discourse is being discussed as being from Indian origin, but which is in effect Western origin. There's a very strong discussion that you should transcend yourself and that you should make connection with all living beings or spiritual beings or whatever, these kind of things. And as a result of that, you become a better person. As if by rarefying yourself, you add certain kind of qualities which are superhuman, because this is usually how it's been considered. And then at the moment when you descend back into your body you have become a better person. I wish the reality was like that, and in some cases it probably is, but in many cases it doesn't really make a big difference. So in the Chinese tradition, they looked at health and to extend life. And the goal of Taoism was of course a spiritual goal at the same time, because they wanted to be good people, they wanted to have the poor elevated from poverty, they wanted the weak to be protected against harassment by the bad, so they were against bullying. They wanted people to live in harmony with each other. There was actually a Confucian value already, because the Confucian value is about harmony. And they wanted you to take care of yourself, so that by doing things for yourself you could prevent being a burden on other people. And for this you had to have a certain kind of control over your looks, your form, your body form, your behavior, as we already discussed, but also your emotions and your thoughts. You are free to think the right kind of thoughts. In Confucianism they solved that through the Book of Rights and the rules that you as an individual had to follow in how you would behave to, for instance, your elder brother or your younger brother or your father or your mother or the emperor or a general or an official or blah, 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 blah. And there's a lot of people you have behaviors towards, and a lot of these behaviors were basically set out in this book. And if you follow these behaviors, or you had to learn these behaviors, if you follow these behaviors, then gradually you would come to understand the value of them. This was a learning method by just acting. So your freedom was to act right. Of course, you always had the choice to act wrong, and in the I Ching it said if you go against Tao, within 7 days you will know the results. That means that if you go against the grain of things, you will face resistance. Maybe in your life you also know that when you did new things which were going against the grain, you faced resistance. In my life, I know, for a long time already I'm going against the grain of things, and although society is changing, the grain is still not in the same direction as where I go. You really notice that there is resistance in your life, and that all the time gives barriers to your proper development or your free development. On the other hand, by persistence, you gradually become stronger and stronger in what you do. And like in my case, I started out as a Qigong teacher, and then I gradually became a Chinese medicine practitioner, and I became a Taoist, and I became a vlogger. So you can see it goes stepwise up, 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 up. And from Taoist and living in caves and living in monasteries and living in a community of Taoists in China and in the mountains, and before that in Nepal, I gradually transcended and transcended and transcended, and became, of course, the highest level of being a human. That means a vlogger, which is just another way for local priests. So you talk to your own community, and it's a form of interaction. And that is where sexuality becomes very interesting, because sexuality is about interaction, of course. And traditionally we talk about sexuality between men and women. And on the basis of that, it is always presumed that, for instance, Taoists are against gays or lesbians, or transgenders or something like this. I'm not exactly sure if that is true, because they are against violence, you can say, in many ways. Taoists, of course, just like Catholics and Buddhists and Hindus and stuff like this, they committed violent transgressions on a frequent basis. They were part of social structures that allowed armies and fighting, and many monks practiced Kung Fu and became criminals as a result of that. Maybe actually used their skills for immoral things. So there's no such thing as transcending, as far as I'm concerned, where you actually become exponentially better, but you just develop more and more skills, and these skills can be used for something, and it depends on your personal choices what you do with them. The primary choice of Taoists is to live forever. Forever is 1,000 years. And sexuality is a means to do that. It's interesting because in sexuality in Taoism, they consider the behavior of men and women to be role-playing. And you're acting particular kind of moves in your sexuality, and at the moment when you perform these moves, you of course create a kind of unification on the mental level, because you feel close in some cases. But the most important is that you get a feedback from the process into your body, which allows you to get more healthy, because the process of sexuality activates or brings to the foreground the power enclosed within your sexual fluids. And this is for men and women, of course, is different. For women it goes through the follicle which is ripening in the womb. For the man, the sperm, and the follicle and the sperm, they don't have the same powers. The powers of the man through the sperm is tiny compared to the power of the woman. And as a result of that, things can be percolated through your body, and as a result of this percolation, changes happen to your body. Interesting is that there are different kind of traditions in sexuality, and most emphasis is on the male development in sexuality and the male benefits. And very famous is the old guy sleeping with the young girls to get the purity from the woman and from the girls, actually, especially when they are still not menstruating, and then rejuvenating itself through that. Less well known, except maybe in some circles, is the tradition of women. For instance, there's particular traditions which are popular in the West, which were practiced by prostitutes. And these techniques were actually to enhance the pleasure of men, but there were also techniques where men, just like women, were being vampirized by the other gender. It is possible to do this also to people from your own gender, but it takes particular understanding of what is happening to you at the moment when you are involved in sexuality. So you're required to do a lot of qigong and meditation training to be able to develop these qualities and to make best use of your gender equality in sexuality. These female traditions, they purposefully force the man to ejaculate and to absorb the sperms inside the body, and then take the power from it and move it to the brain, and then from there you get a whole chain of reactions through the saliva and stuff like that circulated through your body, and gradually change the quality of your breasts and of your belly and of your muscles and your channels in general. And you become like what Tao Hong Ching says, a rarefied being, in the sense that you become more close to being an immortal. Sexuality plays a big role in that, and it can be both used and abused, of course. And abuse usually happens as a result of misunderstanding. And use usually happens as a result of understanding. Of course, it's easy to say from yourself, I'm having an understanding. So when I do this, I have a use of it, and I don't abuse my power. Well, in reality, maybe you do not have a very good understanding, or your partner doesn't have a good understanding, and as a result of that, maybe doesn't happen exactly what you want, and you hide that under figments of your imagination, which very often spiritualization, of course, is very often using the figments of your imagination to make yourself feel and look better in your own eyes, or maybe in somebody else's eyes that you want to impress. And it doesn't matter which religion you belong to. Bragging about yourself, of course, is a very common thing. What is very interesting, though, and this is actually what this is about, this female tradition is coming slowly more and more to the foreground, because recently people discovered that when a woman has sex with a man, the sperms of the man do not only enter the egg, but they also enter the wall of the womb, and they are being disassembled, and some genetic components of the sperm are being transported into the brain by the body in itself. But it is a non-conscious process which is just happening, and it seems, and I don't say it is like that, that Taoists understood about this process through which women were able to consciously drag this genetic information into the body. So the question is actually, this genetic information, is this like a battery? Because it feels like power at the moment when women do this. Is there a lot of energy included in these sperms? There certainly is information in it, and what is interesting from the research, which started out with doing research on mice, and you can read in the article who were the ones who did the research, it is found out that women, when the sperm is being absorbed into the bloodstream, it's being transported to the brain, it also alters the brain. So if a woman sleeps with more women, her brain becomes more influenced by the different sperms of the different men, and as a result of that, some genetic makeup seems to be changed. So that means there's two ways of procreation. One is through sexual intercourse, making babies, and the other one is through womb wall intercourse, sperm-brain intercourse, you can say, through which the woman is transformed. It's very interesting, because that brings us to the concept of parasitism and the whole issue of gender split between male and women, but also on a cellular level between the cells and the mitochondria. And this is very interesting, because these mitochondria, there can be dozens, thousands in a cell, in some cells. These are supposed to be the powerhouses of your body. My idea is that these mitochondria originally were like mice in a boat. So they were parasites entering the boat of the body in the cells, and they gradually came into such a harmonious relationship that they could survive within the cells completely, and they didn't have to live an independent existence outside the cells. And as a result of that, the presence of so much energy inside the cell allowed diversification of cells, and as a result of that, evolution was driven. You can say, in some ways, that, well, in my vision anyway, that the presence of the mitochondria caused the neurosis in the singular cells, through which they were driven to split and procreate. And as a result of that, they gradually grow more capable of doing so, and as a result of that also maybe gender differences came about. So you see there is different levels on which interaction between apparently different creatures take place on a cellular level, between mitochondria and the cells, and then also between the sperms and the brain from the man and the woman. If you are going to be my patron, which I sincerely hope so, then in that case you will have early access to all the videos that I make, of course. This is one of the things. And I also provide you with a discount on your study program when you would start becoming or get interested in starting to do that. Hi patron, thank you very much. I would like to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart to give me the opportunity to further develop my download healthcare project, and to make sure that a lot of people can come to know the system and hopefully have lots of benefit from this.